This video deals with rounding numbers. Rounding numbers deals with several things, but the main thing here in chemistry that we have to worry about is how many significant figures there are in your answer, because that's going to determine how you round your number. So let's see some examples. So if we have, for example, the number 52,300, and I'm only allowed to round this to one significant figure, that's going to be different than if I have to round it to two significant figures or three significant figures. So let's take, well, it's already only three significant figures, so I guess I can only do one sig fig or two sig figs. So let's see what happens when I round it with just one significant figure. So this example is for one significant figure. There are a couple of rules to follow. The first rule is you look at the number previous to the significant figure. So I know that since I only have one sig fig allowed, I'm going to look at the first significant figure in the number, which is the 5. Now that's the one I'm going to have to round, either up or staying the same, which is kind of the same as rounding down. The way I do that is I look at the 2. Now, the number that I circled, if that number is 5 or greater, then the 5 that I underlined will increase to 6. If it's less than 5, then the 5 stays the same. Since the 2 is less than a 5, I just drop everything else, and my answer is simply 50,000. Now remember, this is only one significant figure. Let's take a look at the same number again, 52,300, and this time, let's do two significant figures. Since I know I have two sig figs, I know that I'm going to look at the 2 to see if that goes up or down. I'm sorry, if it goes up or remains the same. Now in this case, I know that I'm going to be looking at this 3, the number directly to the right of how many sig figs I'm allowed to keep. And since that 3 is less than a 5, I know that my 2 will remain the same, and I'll drop everything else, and my answer is simply 52,000. See what kind of difference that made? Keeping one sig fig versus keeping two significant figures, I had a difference of just 2,000. So it can range from 2,000 to 10,000 to 50,000. So it really makes a difference how many significant figures you keep. Let's take a look at one last problem. So if we have something like 379, okay? If we have this, and I want to round it to, let's say, one significant figure, try it for yourself. What do you get when you round 379 to one significant figure? Well, if you know that you're keeping one sig fig, so I'm going to write down one sig fig here. I know that I'm keeping one significant figure. I know that I can only keep the figure that's here. So I take a look at the 7. Since the 7 is greater than a 5, the 3 rounds up to a 4, and I get everything else turns into a 0. So my answer is 400. With two significant figures, I take a look at the 7, and then I look at the 9 here, and that determines whether my 7 is going to go up or stay the same. The 9 is much greater than a 5, so the 7 goes to an 8, the 9 just drops to a 0. So my answer is simply 380 with two significant figures. Now keep in mind that the more significant figures you have, the more precise your answer is going to be. But this is general rounding rules for significant figures.